Hey, everybody, what's up? Welcome to the Most Excellent Entertainment Podcast. I'm your host, Keith, and with me this week is a man who is a fellow podcaster, a pro wrestler, a musician, a director of movies, a producer of movies, an actor,
Also,
a motivational speaker. I think I hit most of it. If I missed anything, we can talk about it once we get going. But please welcome my personal friend, Mr. Paul Allen.
Ernie, thanks for
Paul,
having me on.
thank you for doing this, man. I really appreciate it. So I guess the f- was out of all your creative endeavors, was music what came first?
I would say that writing, like overall, just writing
Hmm.
was the first thing. Um,
And that was one that I didn't mention.
yeah, how dare you? No, I
Apologies.
started writing very, very young. I actually published a book whenever I was in uh, kindergarten or first grade. To be honest, I can't exactly remember which. All those years kind of jumble together nowadays. But I wrote a book that was, at least it was published in the school. I don't think it had like a wide
Right.
release. At least if it ever did, I didn't see any royalties from it. um,
Sure.
but yeah, I started writing very young, and I have not stopped writing since. As far as like my current creative outlets, being music and film, music definitely came first. I started writing music back in around 2010, 2009.
Okay. Um, so you talk about you just talked about writing so young. And did you always feel like you had a creative energy in you? Or did you need some sort of an outlet? Like what led you to start writing, and then obviously that also led into music and all your other creative ventures.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely something that I used to express myself because as a kid I didn't really know fully how to. I didn't. I was not blessed in that regard. As far as um, home life goes and whatnot. So I used writing as a means of expression, but also of escape, and that transcended into music as well. A lot of my early work talks a lot about where I was at in that moment in time specifically, and it was a very powerful way to express that in a healthy manner,
Sure.
which I advocate for a lot whenever I work with people who are trying to find ways to express themselves. It's so important to whatever you do, find a way to do it in a healthy manner. Writing is certainly one of the healthiest ways to express anything. So that's how I used it. That's how I advocate it to be used.
Absolutely. So you spoke about advocating for others and helping people who are dealing with their own issues and problems expressing themselves and things of that nature. How did you move from a person who I guess is writing because that's their creative outlet, which is sort of an insular thing, to performing, to music and wrestling, and then actually just stepping up as yourself and motivating others? Like how did that progression happen?
Yeah. So it's funny because I didn't necessarily set out to be a mentor or anything of that nature, which I'm blessed now to be in a position to where I can be a mentor to others. And I'm very grateful for that because realistically, I know that not a lot of stories end that way. Um, but I just kept writing. Like I said, I started around 2009. Um, in fact, I remember it was June of 2009. I wrote a song on the way to church, um, and my mom, unbeknownst to me, had shown it to the fill-in pastor at that time, and he read it in front of the entire church.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
but that was really cool, and that like I got so many compliments on it, and that really led me to have the confidence to like to say to myself, like, what if I turn this into something? And so in 2011, I start writing, and I had horrendously terrible recordings of very early demos. I no longer have those, unfortunately. I have one, and I only have it because I recorded a video of it and posted on a Facebook page. That's all that I have from the 2011 era. Um, but it really started to get serious for me in 2012. Um, I was given a guitar by a very dear family friend, and I started to like seriously write music, which at that point I had only ever written lyrics. But at that time, I was trying to get a band together, and um, I called the project Unbroken Soldiers, was the original name of the project, and I never could get anybody to actually fully commit. Um, and to be fair, I don't know if I was necessarily fully committed to it. But I did write an EP that I called Stitch. And while the original demos no longer exist, I did re-record it back in 2019 because I still have like I still remember I still had all the original lyrics and I still remembered what I did as far as the composition goes. Um, but from there, I didn't really do anything again until 2014. I did a guitar only demo where it was literally only guitar, and I did it mostly just for fun. And listening back to it, like the recording quality is horrendous, but to see where I was at that point, like it's just so cool. That demo I actually have recently put out again. It's called "Who I Am, Who Am I." So that is actually now available. I released that sometime in 2015, or sorry, 2013, and then I started. It was originally going to be a revamp of Unbroken Soldiers, but then I decided to go with the Hope You're Suffering name instead for my 2014 album. I don't think I ever actually titled it,
Hmm.
but that was kind of my start in music. That was whenever I really got started with it. I started performing in 2015. I did guitar and vocals only, which is so bizarre for heavy metal. And to some people, it worked well. To some people, it was the dumbest thing they've ever seen. Um, but I never necessarily cared about like, oh, does this person like my sound? I felt that what I did was different. There's only one other person that's ever done anything like that, and it takes a lot of guts to do that. I could say now, being removed from performing as long as I have, like it was uh it was fascinating to get up on stage and not know if you were going to get the crowd that really liked you or that just wanted the next. Um, but I kept writing music. I still actively release music today. I just haven't performed. I haven't performed a proper show in about 6 years almost. Um, but I got into writing film. Well, I don't know if I call it writing because it was mostly improv back in 2018. My buddy Matthew and we did a short film called Manic, and like I said, most of it is improvised. Um, it is probably one of the most painful things that you can watch, but damn it, we did it. It was a starting point, and I was proud of it. I'm still proud of it. I still, every once in a while, I rewatch it, and I'm like, yeah, I'm a much better actor than I was then. Um, that was kind of how I got started in that regard. Did, I followed up on Manning because I always wanted it to be a series, but we just never did anything with it. I followed up with Paul's Wonderful Circus in 2019, and that was basically just self tapes that I did as the killer. And then in 2021, I thought, what if I make this into a movie? You know, and so I was writing what would become the first harvest with my mother. We never came up with the title or anything. In fact, it wasn't until probably about 3 or 4 months before we started filming that I finally had the title for it, because it was between the first harvest and the next puzzle. The next puzzle would have been because just a nod to Jigsaw, which
Sure.
is one of my biggest influences as far as how I portray my character. But yeah, we started writing that in 2021. As you know, being in my circle, she passed away shortly after,
Yeah.
and I almost didn't finish the script, but then I did, and
Hmm.
it really jump started a whole career that I did not think that I could ever have. Like, it's brought so much fulfillment, and
Yeah.
I'm very, very blessed and fortunate to have that at this stage.
Yeah. So you hit on quite a few things
I did.
there. So we're gonna rewind a little bit
Rewind the
and
tapes a little.
hit a couple different points. So one of the things that I find interesting about your music, like I uh I have bought several of your projects. A, because I want to support my friends, and B, I'm a collector of music, and C, because some of it's pretty damn good, and uh it's all it's all got its own different elements, which I think is cool. But I own a release by For the Falling, Till Paul Gideon, and I also have a T-shirt, and also a Hope Through Suffering, I believe. That's the gray, right? Yeah. And I've also purchased a CD that I'm still waiting for. But
Gotta tell me if it doesn't come, because if I don't hear anything,
brother, it's been months. Yeah, I still don't have it. All right. So with each uh with each release, I know that you have some, like For the Fallen. You recorded as For the Fallen for quite some time. But
yeah.
I guess what I wanted to get to was, is there a reason that you release these albums under different names, and that you perform under different names and different personas? Um, yeah, that's basically what it is. Because I mean, there's more than just the three that we named. You have several different musical personalities, I guess. So yeah, just curious of how that comes about, and what the different acts or whatever mean or signify.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. I've definitely I've had my fair share of musical personas, and not even just for my own projects. I've been kind of a ghost member, if you will, of a few different bands where it's kind of like a sleep token gimmick or a ghost gimmick where it's anonymous members, right? I've actually been a part of a couple of those bands that have had fairly popular releases, and I've always found it fascinating to go about it that way. Not that I've ever been anonymous by any means in my more well-known work, such as Till Paul Gideon or For the Fallen. Um, So Till Paul Gideon, I initially started just as Paul Gideon back in 2015, and then my aunt Till passed away, and coincidentally, I was also a fan of the band Rammstein, or I still am. I not was, um, but I'm a fan of the band Rammstein. Their vocalist is named Till Lindemann, and so I thought, like, not just as a nod to Rammstein, who at that point was one of my bigger influences, but as a nod to my aunts, who I was closer to her than really any family member aside from my mother. I changed it from Paul Gideon to Till Paul Gideon. There was really no other reason for that, other than just as a tribute. But then in 2017, I so something I've talked about on is I have rheumatoid arthritis, which is a progressive condition, and as such, I have a hell of a time playing guitar. Um, it is more often than not extremely painful to play guitar, and in 2017, it just started to get a lot worse and significantly more painful to the point that I would rush through my sets. I would have to rush through because I could not physically bear to play a whole another song. So I would shorten songs, I would cut out songs, and it got to the point that I almost lost the passion for playing because it's like this is more painful than anything. So why am I doing this to myself? And I had kind of flirted with the idea of just, not really worrying about music until I could get the pain management under control. Um, but then a friend of mine, who at that point went by Victor Von Horror, he was like, "Hey, let me throw some instrumentals your way," and I I graciously accepted because um, that was a very generous offer, and I almost For the Fallen almost didn't happen. It was almost just a continuation of Topal. Um, but I felt like, I have a collaborator now. I don't want to just call it my name, you know. And so that was kind of how For the Fallen was born. Um, Now, for Hope Through Suffering, uh, that was a name that I released a few releases under that had more of a faith-based outlook. Um, and For the Fallen very early on had the same message, but I didn't yet want to return to the Hope Through Suffering name. And Unbroken Soldiers, like I said, that was really my first project name that I had come up with and written under. Um, but I've definitely tried to make a distinction between sounds. That way, it's not just, oh, here's 5 different projects that all sound like one. So like with For the Fallen, I didn't want to ever do just guitar and vocals, at least within metal. And vice versa. There was no point in Till Paul Gideon having other instruments. Um, Now, coincidentally, I have re-released virtually my entire discography under just my actual name, Paul Allen. Um, and part of that was because, admittedly, and I knew this would happen, um, it became very confusing to keep track of everything that I was doing musically.
Yeah.
And I felt like, it just made more sense to release everything. So um, back in literally, I think it was the last day of 2023, I got myself set back up on DistroKid and I started to upload. At that point, I was working on releasing my album, Set the World on Fire. So that was the first thing I put up. And then I started to put up all of my back catalog as well. And it's been a very fruitful venture too. I did not anticipate on my music ever really doing anything, but in just 1 year, and I haven't even gotten all of the royalty reports for December yet, but in just 1 year, almost 13 million streams. I am
Ooh.
absolutely blown away by that. You know, those are getting into some big boy number territory. So,
Yeah.
uh, I'm just grateful because I didn't necessarily I didn't necessarily put my music back up to get a ton of streams. Um, I just did it so that it was there,
Right.
and the streams just kind of happened. I still don't know how. It just it happened.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because you talked about just a little side anecdote. You talked about having a hard time keeping track of everything that you were releasing. A couple years ago, you said that you were going to release your cover of Akuna Matata and that it had never been physically released before. And I messaged you and said, "Hey, brother, I have Hakuna Matata on a CD as a bonus track at my house." I was like, "You've definitely released it before." So I thought it's kind of funny. What's
Um,
that?
I don't know if I told you this or not, but you're the only person that has that CD. I never actually sold that to anyone else. I put it out there, like it's not for lack of trying.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I had completely forgotten. So I guess it was hard for me to keep track of my own shit too. Um,
Yeah.
I still haven't put that up. I don't know if I can put it up on DistroKid because there's it is a cover and there's a process you have to go through to put out a
Right.
cover legally. But um, yeah, I did that one literally just for shits and giggles. I
Yeah.
had never, aside from watching The Lion King, I had never even seen or rather heard the song, and I had certainly never heard a metal version of it. So I was like, you know what, we're gonna give this a go. And
Yeah.
there were definitely a few people that enjoyed it whenever I had it on streaming, and then I just completely forgot that I put it physical.
Yeah. That's funny. I think it's on
Killing
uh
Scarlet.
the Killing Scarlet. Right. Right. Yes, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's funny that we should talk about rare CD because I've had more than a few demos I put out and albums and whatnot. So
Yeah.
yesterday I found the three rarest CDs that I released. I
Okay.
think that they are at least the rarest that I still somehow had. So I have. I don't know if you can see this or not. It
I
is
own
the
that one. Yeah.
you're one of the ones that has this one.
Yep, I have that one, and I bought a shirt for that CD release too.
Yeah.
Which for
So
the
this is
for the audio, let's
yeah.
tell
This
everyone
is
what it is.
So this is the Hallelujah Hallelujah double album. Um, and it's funny because back in 2016 when I put Hallelujah out, I had also recorded the tracks for Hallelujah, but then I could never find the master CD that I made, and I'm pretty sure it was in storage whenever we lost storage whenever we were homeless.
Sure.
So I for the 5 year anniversary of Hallelujah, I redid what I could of the original recordings that I still remembered and had the lyrics to. And I put out, there are only 10 copies of this that exist. And the Hallelujah part is not streaming anywhere.
Hell yeah.
So
Well,
that,
I have one of the 10 copies, so that's pretty killer.
sir, um, this one is even more rare.
Okay.
This is For the Fallen's EP slash demo Hosanna.
Okay.
It is, it's funny, I shouldn't still have this technically because somebody had bought it and said, "Hey, I'm going to pick it up at a show." and they paid for it, but they never came to pick it up, and then I never got their address. Like I asked,
Oh,
never heard from. I'm still friends with them on Facebook, and they still like periodically, I check to see if they've even seen my last message. They
yeah,
haven't. They haven't posted, so I don't know what's up with that. I believe that I had given this to my buddy Matthew for a while as well,
yeah.
and then um, he had given it back a few years ago, and I forgot that I still had it until the other day. It is signed by myself, and like I said, at that time he went by Von Horror. Um, there are, I think, 5 copies of this out there that have both of our
Oh,
signatures, and then there's 5 others that are unsigned. Um, don't know where any of them are. Now this one, there are more. There are plenty of copies out there of this, but this is "Set the World on Fire," signed by both me and Heidi Mick. This, I believe, is the only copy that has both of our signatures on.
nice. That's the
So
CD that I'm waiting for.
you're waiting on Marquee of Snakes.
Oh, am I? I thought
Yeah.
I got the one with you and Heidi together.
No, it was Marquee of Snakes
Oh, okay.
because I
Right
had
on.
set up that I was taking pre-orders for the re-release.
Gotcha. Okay.
But yeah, so it's funny you should talk about the different CDs that you have. I was
Yeah.
like, wait, I just found some of my rarer ones.
Right. That's cool. Yeah, I know.
I'm sorry.
What's that?
I said I had to fangirl over that for a second. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's all good, dude. Maybe I can get Tyler to throw up some graphics of the CDs that I have, especially if I'm the only one who has Killing Scarlet, because I definitely have a picture of that on my phone, and the Hope Through Suffering CD I have a picture of that on my phone too. So
Which Hope You're Suffering do you have again?
it's gray. I can look it up real quick in my database and see which one it is. I just know the cover's gray.
Is it does it have me on the cover?
No, it's oh, maybe it's not Hope Through Suffering because I'm looking that
It
up and
could be
nothing's coming
Unbroken
up.
Soul.
Huh.
It could be Unbroken Soldiers because the
Um,
sale.
yeah, I don't think it's Unbroken Soldiers. I know it's okay. See this, so that's Killing Scarlet. I swear it's Hope Through Suffering, but it's not showing up on my. Huh. It's not showing up in my music database. I wonder if I didn't get a chance to add it. Let me. This is interesting podcasting, eh? All right, let's see. Uh, I know it's like gray, and it looks almost like it's like a. Oh no, I have Dead by Dark.
Dead by
That's what I
Dark.
have. Into the Dark, Dead by Dark. Yeah, there we
There
go.
are only there's only uh, three three copies of that that's out there.
Nice. Well, I have that one too. So one of the benefits of actually being friends with you, I can get all the rare stuff. Um,
Right?
so I did, and you touched on it a little bit too. I did want to talk about your guitar playing because I think that you are a pretty underrated guitarist. Like when I hear your solos and stuff, I mean, you do. I'm just like, wow, I can't believe Paul played that. Um, and to know about your personal physical struggles, the arthritis and everything, and then some of the other stuff that you've dealt with that's hindered your wrestling career. You talked about it a little bit, but how hard is it to play the complicated stuff that you play? Because I mean, it's not simple. Like you're playing some pretty complex stuff with the arthritis the way it is, and how have you been able to manage it and actually continue to put out music?
So, So the first answer is probably not the best answer, but back whenever whenever I started getting back into performing in 2019, I started to kind of numb it a little bit with, shall we say, the bubbly, and
Okay.
um, not a healthy way to handle it by any means.
Yeah.
But now that I've been playing guitar again for a couple of years, just practicing. I've actually done a couple of performances on TV um, as well,
Right.
but I I have to, whenever I am having a flare up, I have to give myself more time.
Okay.
Um, my tendency is to rush, so please don't tell the teacher in Whiplash that I'm a rusher. But I have to remind myself that I don't have to play double time every time.
Right.
Um, I try to write song structures in a way that isn't overwhelming.
Mhm.
Making it sound complicated whenever it's not is how I would describe it. Um,
Right. Right.
but playing guitar, and especially playing thrash and death metal, there's no way around the complexity of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you might catch on like some of my more recent recordings the fact that I don't do solos a lot anymore. It's
Mhm.
because solos, you know, whenever I'm doing solos and I'm going down the neck of the guitar closer to the body, those frets are smaller and you have to bunch your fingers up a little bit more. Um, I cannot physically do that.
Mhm.
So I'm going to show you something here.
Okay.
This is my hand at a resting state. There are gaps between my fingers, well, at least my middle and ring, and my pinky. Don't know
Yeah.
how.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
my
Interesting.
fingertip, my fingertips, you can tell, especially right now with my index finger, are starting
Yeah.
to kind of tilt inward a little bit, and
Yeah.
that makes it very difficult to strum to play because that's just my right hand. My left hand is like this, same thing.
Yeah.
And another thing that kind of makes it harder to play is I was in a car wreck in 2008, and I actually broke my left hand, and I suffered nerve damage and lost feeling in my hand for several years. Now, the crazy thing is, there are times, um, like recently, that I have felt like I don't know the best way to describe it, like just kind of flashes of feeling, I guess,
Mm.
where like I might bang my hand on the counter as I'm walking by and be like, ouch, wait, I felt that and had to say ouch. um, so I have had to learn as well that I can't push it. Like, if there is a day that I cannot play, I used to just try to power through it, and I think that that did far more harm than good. But now
Sure.
I have to be like, all right, I can't do this today. Um, and that is going to make my show that I'm planning for September interesting because I'm
Mm.
planning a 10-year anniversary show of the first, um, originally released under the Till Paul Getty name, but Louder Than Hell, the first proper release that I did,
Okay.
10 years ago, September 11th. And so I'm
Mm.
planning a show and I'm going to perform songs from primarily that album as well as a couple of others. Um, and I've been rehearsing for that already, and I'm to the point that I can handle most of the set with no issues. But I flirted with the idea of bringing on another guitarist to do the guitar parts live.
Yeah.
Just because it's so there are good days and there are bad days, and the bad days are getting worse when you're bad. And
Right.
so I'm kind of flirting with that idea a little bit, but we're still only in February. We've got
Yeah, you
7
got time.
months.
Right.
So,
Right
yeah,
on.
that's kind of where I'm at with it now. I also, and hopefully our employer doesn't hear this bit, but I also have discovered that taking CBD products. I do want to
Mhm.
be transparent. I don't like smoke or anything like that. But I have dabbled a little bit in CBD products, and that has helped ease some of it. It is the only
Yeah.
thing I have ever taken that has helped, um,
Wow.
especially with my back pain. And so I think that is going to be a critical element to being able to perform in September.
Sure. Sure. And I mean, honestly, CBD is legal. You can buy it at the gas station. So no
That's where I
reason,
get it.
no reason for our employer to stress over you, uh, using legal medication to help your arthritis.
Well, I just know that it's still rather stigmatized, and
Sure. Sure. Sure.
it's hard to tell how people will react whenever you tell them, like, "Hey, this is what I take." Um,
Yeah.
so you just have to be kind of careful with it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Educate people when they're willing to be educated on it. I
Yeah.
absolutely advocate, like, you know, I would recommend going to a proper smoke shop instead of the gas station. But
Mhm.
um, if you deal with chronic pain, go get you some edibles. Like they really are miracles.
Nice. Nice. So, speaking of different physical ailments that you've had and things of that nature, um, you have had you've had a professional wrestling career that has been kind of spotty
Yeah,
because of concussions and other issues that have kept you from wrestling. But by the time this podcast gets released on Tuesday morning, you'll have had your return match, which is this weekend at JICW. Um, so I wanted to talk to you a little bit about your journey in pro wrestling, and what led to you deciding that you were able to come back, because it's been a while since you've had a match.
over a
Yeah,
year.
yeah,
So I was actually supposed to wrestle last February, but I was unable to. And I have a very long history of concussions. I have had a ungodly amount of concussions,
yeah.
and it's funny because like some doctors that I've seen have been like, you should not do this anymore, and then some are like, just be careful.
Right.
So it's hard sometimes to distinguish, what voices to listen to. Whenever you have, whenever you have my health issues and you have 1,001 doctors, sometimes it's hard to listen to, or rather to find the right one to like listen to their word. Um,
Yeah.
and I I took last year off, not even necessarily because of concussion, but in the latter part of last year, I had some very frightening health issues that came up that, frankly, I wasn't sure if I would survive. And
Mm.
um, I I had kind of a come to Jesus moment where it's like I know that I cannot do this full time, and I definitely should not try to. Um, but for the times that I can, with as much as I love to wrestle, I would be doing a disservice to myself to be completely closed off to. Um, I had there's been a couple of times that I was told I could not wrestle anymore. Once back in 2018, and then once again in 2023. Um, Whenever I had my match against Levi Motionless in November of 23,
Hmm.
sorry, the second time I was told not to wrestle was in 2022. That was actually after I wrestled Ace at WFW.
Hey now,
But just a shout out to
my old
uh,
company. Yeah,
um,
yeah.
but my match against Levi Motionless in November of 23, I felt was, if it was indeed my last match, it was a very good last match for me.
Sure.
Um, I absolutely loved it, and I thought, like, if that's it, like, that's a great way for me to go out with my wrestling. Um, I said, and this is still true, like, I have been wrestling on borrowed time.
Yeah.
And it's not something that I'm going to be able to do a lot of. And I hate that because if I could do it full time, I would. But I felt like it was best to go out on my own terms for once. And,
Yeah.
um, I guess I'm kind of going back on that, being that I'm wrestling on Saturday. But again, I feel like I'm doing a disservice to myself if I don't. I don't know how long that I have to be able to physically handle wrestling.
Yeah.
So why not do it while I can? Again, not full time, not like I'm going to be wrestling every week, every other week, every month. Hell, I may not even wrestle again this year. You never know.
Right.
Um, but it's something I've always wanted to do. Like that was really my first love was wrestling.
Yeah.
And I don't know the context of which I'm wrestling on Saturday. I don't know any details yet. There's been a couple of names that have been thrown out. Um, but damn it, I'm going to give it my all and hope for the best.
Yeah. Right on, man. Well, good luck. So,
Thank you.
welcome. A couple more things that I want to talk about before we hop out of here. We haven't touched on podcasting at all, and
Yeah,
you do a podcast with your friend Matthew. And do you want to talk a bit about that? Do you guys talk about movies, right? Is that the main theme of the podcast?
yeah. So that is the Cinema Asylum podcast. We are on all the streamers, Spotify, YouTube, everything. Um, we primarily discuss movies, and there's four of us that are, or sorry, five of us that are members.
Hmm.
There's myself as the horror expert. There is Matthew, who is one of the superhero and sci-fi experts. Dylan, who is the other superhero sci-fi expert. Garrett, who is my frequent cinematographer, is the Indian drama expert. And then John is the action and animation expert. And so we all bring different perspectives to the table, and I think that gives us an edge over other movie podcasts. Um, we have an absolute riot of a time whenever we record.
Yeah.
I absolutely love it. And yeah, I enjoy whenever we all get together and raise a little bit of hell.
Yeah, we've had some private discussions about movies, and you have some pretty strong opinions. Uh, so I'm sure it's fun when when you all get together and your opinions either clash or don't. I mean, either way, I'm sure it makes for a good discussion. So
It's very lighthearted 99% of the
yeah,
time. We all kind of shit on each other's movie takes a little bit. Um,
right, right.
I'm going to go on the record right now and say that John Thompson, you have the worst fucking movie takes I've ever heard in my goddamn life. But Um, it's just
Right on.
banter like that.
Yeah. Awesome.
But yeah, I enjoy it. I love the banter that we have, and I think that it's a really positive thing to look forward to. At least the times I can get down there to.
Sure. Sure.
I'm not able to every week, unfortunately, but it's always a blast.
Yeah. And you guys actually all record in the same room, like the
Yeah,
five of you
yeah,
sit down together. That's awesome.
yeah. There's three of us on a couch, one of us on a chair, and the other on kind of a chase lounge. Um,
That's excellent.
the the um, the dude Dylan, he sits on the chase lounge off camera,
Yeah.
and all of the rest of us are on camera. Um, so yeah, it's a really fun setup. It feels
Nice.
like an indie, which I love.
Yeah, I would be conflicted if I was in that setup because I would want to sit on the chase lounge because that sounds very comfy, but I would not want to not be on camera because I like being on camera. So so that would be a tough call. Um, but
It's funny because I have slept on that Chase Lounge a few times. There was a few years ago, whenever my mother and I was homeless,
yeah.
Matthew and his family actually took us both in. I stayed with Matthew, and my mother stayed with uh, Mr. and Mrs. Walker. And
Okay.
so I've spent a few nights on that lounge, on that Chase Lounge.
Nice.
I can
Nice.
attest comfort,
So
comfort.
so for the last big topic that I want to cover is the movies, which is probably also the biggest creative outlet that you have right now. Um,
Yeah,
I don't know of any filmmaker who is as prolific as you. Um, I mean, you've done one feature film, but you've also done multiple shorts that create an entire universe, and then others that are also separate. But it seems like through a lot of your work, there's a theme of horror, obviously, but then also rebirth and strength. Um, and yeah, man, if you just want to talk a little bit about um, your movie career, how all this came about, the awards that you've won. I mean, anything that you've got going on. The movie that we're working on would be awesome if you want to drop that in there. but but yeah, man, just I think that your journey from a kid writing stories to putting this thing together with your mom to now being an award-winning actor and writer and director who is admired by fans and peers is pretty freaking inspirational, man. So yeah, just whatever you want to talk about, whatever you want to reveal in that journey, just it's open.
I so my journey really almost ended with not even getting the first harvest finished. I I set back into it not for awards, not for accolades. I wanted to finish something that I was working on with my mother, and I did not anticipate on falling in love with it. I did not anticipate it in the slightest. I didn't expect anything from it. Um, Frankly, I didn't even know for sure if I was ever going to film the first harvest. Um, I wanted to finish it. I needed to. And and I'm going to try to not get choked up here. I met some of the best friends I've ever had because of that decision. I have made connections that I never thought I would ever be able to make because of that decision. I have met some of the people that I have looked up to for years because of that decision. And to me, everything else that has happened since then has just been bonus. Um, I I've definitely done quite a bit in horror, but I've also tried to do projects that have a deeper meaning. The Recovery, My Devotion, currently working on Escaping Darkness. you know, I think that everybody eventually wonders what their legacy is going to be, and I really want my legacy to be making a product that matters, makes a difference. And the horror stuff, truthfully, is just for fun. It's just, whatever I can think of that I think is going to be good. But the drama work, the more serious work, like that's what I want my legacy. And looking back, if you would have told me 3 years ago, whenever I started to, or sorry, now I guess it would have been about 4 years. If you would have told me 4 years ago that my work within just a short time would have earned over 100 international awards. How does that happen for a small town nobody from Indiana? How does that happen? I certainly never expected it, and I'm not one that cares for. I don't, I'm not in it for fame or recognition. I'm in it just because I love doing it, and I'm incredibly blessed. Like I said, I've met some of my best friends. I've met some of my heroes that I grew up idolizing, and there's a few things in the works that I cannot talk about yet involving that. I'm getting to work with a few people that I literally grew up watching, and it's insane. I still don't know how this is happening. But I think if there's one thing that it points to, it's that no matter who you are or what you've been through, no matter where you're at, if you truly apply yourself, you can do it.
Yeah.
And that's what I hope that people see whenever they look at Paul Allen.
Yeah, it's pretty wild because the movie that we're working on, well, we're going to be working on, we're just about finished. Yeah, we're just about finished with the casting. Last night in the group chat that we have, I can't remember. I sent out a message and you kind of
I replied to it after like 3 or 4 days.
Right. You replied to the message, and Karn Alexander, who is an excellent actor, former pro wrestler, he's done. He's been in some movies that have been highly ranked in the Tubi streaming, like Eat the Rich. I think was one of the top movies streaming on Tubi the month that it was released. I mean, people pay attention to Karn. And Karn kind of marked out a little bit. He was excited that you were involved with the project, and then you were excited that he was involved in the project. And it was really cool that to just see moments like that,
Well, it's crazy because this is an excellent example what you just said of that. But like there are times that I even go to conventions and I go to network. I go to meet new people, and every once in a while I go to with the intent to meet someone.
Right.
But I've been to a few conventions and I get recognized.
Yeah.
Like it still blows my mind every time that someone comes up to me and says, "You were in that movie. You made that movie."
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. It's awesome, man. So on that note, I'm gonna open the floor to you. Anything that you want to talk about, where people can find you on social media, what you've got coming out, websites, anything you want to plug, go for it. The floor is yours, my friend.
Absolutely. I've got a lot of projects coming up over the next literally few years. I've got pretty much a 4-year plan right now. And that's just my own work. I still have to make time for other work too. So of my projects that I have created, right now we're working on Escaping Darkness. We're also working on Sister Sullivan. we're actually about to film a scene on March 10th for Sister Sullivan that is going to be a standout scene, and frankly, is probably going to be one of the goriest scenes ever filmed in the state of
Oof.
Indiana.
Okay.
I I also have a short coming out called Goetia, which features Rob Mello of Happy Death Day.
Mm.
He is in it. He's also done some work on Netflix, a couple of Netflix movies. He's been on, I think, Fear the Walking Dead. Um, so I'm really excited to work with him and get Goetia out there. We're about to release a short film called Tonight the World Dies. We've already wrapped filming on that. We're currently in post production. Um, that's just kind of a little snippet of what we're working on right now. I think that we have 20 projects that I have either written or co-written. That's in the works over the next 4 to 5 years. Um, and then as far as outside work, I'm going to shout out Swipe Right. I'm directing that. I'm super excited for that.
Yeah. I mean, you're not just directing it, you're location scouting, you're helping manage the GoFundMe or the Indiegogo. I mean, you're doing quite a bit for me, brother. I appreciate it, but go ahead. I want to give
I
you all
love
the
that.
credit that's due to you. So
Hey, you're the one
helping
that
with
came up with the
casting.
idea.
Yeah. I
You're the
mean,
one
I
that
came
came
up
up
with the
with
concept, but it wouldn't be happening without you and everyone else that's involved. So
Hey, I appreciate the opportunity. Um,
yeah.
I cannot. There's another movie I filmed for. It's coming out. I have to be very careful of what I say because I don't want to get in trouble.
Mhm.
But if you're looking for a super movie to watch in July, that
Man,
is probably that's probably the absolute most that I can say without getting
yeah,
in some kind of.
man.
Even then, it's a little questionable. So
Yeah.
we may have to bleep that out. But
Yeah, it's a super movie, you know? People
yeah, I
can go to
mean,
the cinemas and see a super movie. That's,
there's plenty of
yeah,
plenty of.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of really cool projects that I've got coming up. I'm very excited, especially just to get Escaping Darkness out there. It
Yeah.
is a very powerful story that is going to impact a lot of lives, and I'm
Yeah, and I
excited.
mean the scene that you sent me was really powerful, man. So I appreciate you letting me check that out. It was um yeah, it's gonna touch people. And Cassie's in that too, right? Or Casey. I meant to say Casey's in that, right?
She is not in Escaping Darkness.
Oh, okay. What are you doing with her you've got something coming out with her too, right?
Yeah, she's in Tonight the World Dies and Sister Soul.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Very talented young lady for sure.
Absolutely incredible. Um,
Yeah.
and I hope she doesn't mind me saying this, but she is fucking hilarious on set too. Like, um,
She
she is
seems
an
like she would be.
yeah, she's an absolute jokester, and I love that because like that helps keep on set fun. You know,
Yeah.
um, she improvised a couple times during Sister Sullivan as well as Tonight the World Dies, and it cracked me. She's amazing. Um,
Yeah.
And yeah, I can't wait for everybody to see what she does as Rachel and Sister Sullivan and as Maya in Guys.
Awesome. Right on, brother. Well, thank you so much for doing this for me. For coming on as a guest. We've talked about having you on quite a few times, and it took a literal last second cancellation to get you on here, but I'm glad we did it, dude. This has been
Just so
fun.
happens that it worked out.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, man. Um, so yeah, I want to thank Paul Allen. I want to thank Tyler Martin and Emmy Studios for making this all happen. I want to thank you. I was going through our YouTube numbers, and we have got, for me anyway, some pretty impressive numbers for YouTube. We've picked up a couple new subscribers lately. Um, and the Spotify numbers continue to be steady, and we get bumps every once in a while. So I appreciate everybody out there who's checking us out and who's giving this podcast a chance. This is fun. This is great, and we're getting to our 40th episode, which, from what I understand, that's not something that happens all the time. 40 essentially consecutive weeks of hopping on here and doing what I love. One of the things that I love anyway. So anyway, thank you so much for checking us out. We're going to be getting a Patreon set up pretty soon for not just this podcast, but also Roundtable Wrestling. So be on the lookout for that, because we do need to get some funding going here. It's always fun to do it, but it'd be nice if people could throw us a couple bucks to help keep this thing alive. I appreciate everyone so much, whether you're just listening or, whether you're actively supporting us, however you're allowing us to come into your lives. Thank you so much. And with that being said, we will see everyone next week with more of the Most Excellent Entertainment Podcast.